Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's session on accessibility. Throughout the month of June, we will be holding accessibility-focused training sessions every other Wednesday at noon. Today's session, we're going to be covering some accessibility tools that you might find useful as you're working to improve the accessibility of your website. And on our June 18th session, we'll be diving into screen readers and how to use those, both what it's like from the perspective of a user of assistive technology and what it's like, how to use screen readers for testing a website's accessibility. So as normal with these sessions, we do ask you to please post any questions you have in the chat. That will help us to make sure that we get accurate answers to everybody. We will post the answers later today into our Google chat accessibility chat space. We will also email the questions and answers to everybody who attended today's session. And then finally, we are recording this session, so the video will be posted to our YouTube channel later today. So with that, let's dive right in, because we've got a lot to cover in the first or in this 30-minute session. Before we look at specific tools, though, I wanted to have a brief conversation about how to select the right tools. As we all know, it's been the law for 34 years now that information technology systems, online systems have to be accessible. And so there's a lot of resources that are out there. There's a lot of different tools that are out there. We're clearly not going to cover all of those today, but the first kind of step is to understand how to select the different evaluation tools that are out there, what types of tools, what to look for, and in my opinion, what to avoid. So I got a brief video here we'll start off with.
Tools for evaluating web accessibility. There are software programs and online services to help you identify accessibility barriers. They can save you lots of time and effort on evaluation and can help you avoid creating new accessibility barriers. However, tools can't do it all. Some accessibility checks just cannot be automated and require manual intervention. Some tools guide you through the checks that cannot be automated. Some tools check one page at a time, while others can scan entire websites. Tools can be integrated into different work environments. For example, into your web browser, content management system, or CMS, and your development and deployment tools. They support different roles in a project team, such as content authors, code developers, designers, and product owners. Note that in some cases, tools can provide inaccurate results. So avoid relying too much on what tools say over addressing the real-life experience of website users. Selecting web accessibility evaluation tools explains what tools can and cannot do, and what to look for in tools that meet your needs. The list of web accessibility evaluation tools has filters to help you find the right tool for your particular situation. Equipped with tools and knowledge on how to use them, you are in good shape to find accessibility barriers more efficiently. Web accessibility, essential for some, useful for all. For information on tools for evaluating web accessibility, visit w3.org/WAI/evaluation.
So the first tool or resource that I'm going to share with you isn't really a tool, but it was the link that was on that first slide there, this page about how to select web accessibility evaluation tools. I would recommend taking a look at this. Of course, if you want to watch that video again, it's right here. But there's some great information about what to look for, the limitations of tools, etc. As I mentioned a moment ago, the law has been out there for 34 years, so there's a lot of resources that are out there online. But as resources are published, and this is really a problem with everything online that I'm sure you've experienced. Lots of out-of-date resources and out-of-date information is also still available online. So one of the things you have to be careful for when looking and evaluating different tools is to make sure you're looking at the most current, most accurate information, and that the tools you're using are still being maintained. They're being maintained by a reliable source. So I've got a couple of resource links here that I'm going to share with you about how to find some good tools from some fairly vetted lists, although as with any list on the internet, there is stuff that's going to be out of date as well. So always to make sure you're looking for trusted resources, that your the guidelines that they're following are the most correct current set of guidelines, that you validate when was that tool last updated, is it still being maintained by someone. So the two tools that we'll kind of go through and recommend today are really lists of other tools that you might be interested in. The first one is by the W3C Consortium, which is essentially the internet standards body, and the group or a subgroup of that is what establishes all of our accessibility tools, or excuse me, all of the accessibility guidelines. And they have curated an evaluation tools list with 80 different tools. It's a great way to go through, filter by different product types, purposes, whether it's paid or free, different tool types, etc. So this is one resource that I recommend taking a look at, primarily because it lets you know how current everything is, whether it's something that's still being maintained or not. So here's one resource to be able to go to. The other list that I like, and I'm sure there's lots more, and I would encourage people to share what they've found within the accessibility chat. But another really good curated list is from an organization called Digital Ally. And not only do they have a lot of tools on this list, but they also have lots of other primers, checklists, cheat sheets, etc. And under their tools section, they have it all organized by the different categories of tools that you might be looking for, to be able to find stuff. And as you can tell, there's just a ton of tools. The one downside to this is that it's actually all organized by blog post, so it's not quite as filterable and searchable as the W3C tool list, but it is another good list to go to explore the different tools that are available, and to see what works for you. As I mentioned as the video mentioned, the most important thing here is not what tools say, it's what our users say. Tools are just a way for us to help improve accessibility, and what's most important is whether or not the content is accessible to people. So today we're going to cover a couple of different common tool categories, and as I go through these, we'll have a standard format that we look at for each of these tools, but hopefully we'll give you what works best for us. And I would encourage people to play around with each of these resources, determine what tools work best for you. So the first category is browser extensions. And with all of these, most browser extensions fit under the category of the scanning type of service. And so the first one that hopefully by now everyone is familiar with is the Acquia Optimze browser extension. This is really good for being able to do all of those context-sensitive checks and making sure that whenever you publish new content, you scan that content right away. You're not waiting for the scanning tool to come back a week later to tell you where there's a problem. But as soon as you publish content on your website, you're able to do it. One great thing about this tool, and I do have a separate video, by the way, about using this browser extension. So if you haven't watched that, definitely take a look at it. But the way the browser extension works, and I do need to expand this out to make it a little easier to see. there'll be a little button at the top by your address bar where you click on the logo like this, it will open up, and unfortunately it looks like that did not work for me, so I may not be able to show you this tool today. It looks to be going a little bit slow. But this tool integrates directly with the Optimze system. And so the great reason why we recommend using this tool is because of all the review checks that you're having to do on your site to update your score. Using this tool while you're on your site, you can perform those reviews and keep things up to date. Like any of the other scanning tools, you can also use this to scan other sites, particularly sites that may not be part of our Optimze account. So if you have an intranet site or a Google Docs site, for example, you can still use this tool to do single page scans, what they call either a quick scan or a single page scan, to find common accessibility problems on that site. Now, if it's not listed in our account, it won't keep the metrics, it won't track that review history, but it is useful for being able to do those types of scans. A couple of drawbacks to this tool. One, you do have to have an Optimze account in order to use the browser extension. So if you have people on your team that would like to use this tool, please make sure to open up a service desk ticket with us, and we'll get user accounts on Optimze created for them. The other drawback to the tool depends on which type of scan you're doing. If you're doing a quick scan, this tool looks at what you've already downloaded from the website into your browser and evaluates a subset of checks for the code you've already downloaded as soon as you visited the page. If you'd like a more comprehensive scan, you can do the single page scan, but that actually is a little bit slower because it's doing more checks. It's not using what you've downloaded into your browser, and instead it sends the URL to an API endpoint. Their scanner scans it, and then it returns back the results to your browser. So it can be a little bit slow compared to some of the other tools. As I said, we have a whole video on how to use this extension, so I'm not going to really dive much into it. It's not the only extension to use, and we always recommend use multiple tools when you're checking for accessibility. Different tools have different evaluation engines and different tests and checks that they're performing. And so one tool may say everything is great with your site, while another tool is going to find a problem you may want to address. So we generally recommend to use at least 2 different scanning type services. For the state of Arizona, we're evaluating our metrics using the Optimze system, but you can use a tool like AxeDev, which is a different type of browser extension, to be able to, again, do those single page scans to get that second opinion. Because the results from using the Axe tool won't be showing up with those review items won't be showing up in Optimze. You'll still have to mark all of those. So we generally recommend using this tool just to focus in on the errors and not necessarily all those review items. And I'm trying to switch and pull open the Axe tool here. And let me go back to my demo site with the Axe tool. And hit it one more time. There we go. Let me show you what that looks like. Well, apparently it's not going to want to load. I'm going to reload the page and see if that will work. Today, I guess, is just not the day for online tools. Oh, I know why I'm not seeing it. I should have realized this earlier. The Axe tool is more developer focused. So this is one of the drawbacks of this tool. To get to see the Axe tool results, you're going to right click on anywhere on the page, in Google Chrome, and you can't see this because it doesn't show up properly through a Meet, but when the little pop-up menu comes up when you right-click, click on the word Inspect, and that will open up Google Chrome's Inspector. And up at the top, it's not appearing for me. There it is. You'll see a menu link for AxeDev tools. So again, this one is a little bit more focused. A couple of the drawbacks with this one, when I click on AxeDev tools, the free version, there's a lot of cool stuff that's all locked down that's required for paid. Really about the only thing you can do is a full page scan with the free version. But it does work rather nicely to go through and scan the site. It'll give you a list of total issues. One thing you'll see here when this site finishes getting scanned, it's very similar to Optimze. It'll organize things into critical, moderate, serious, minor. You can focus in on the issues. It has a different explanation set for what each check does and how to fix it. So one of the ways we like to use this tool is to compare the instructions and tutorials that we're getting from Optimze to the instructions that we're getting using the Axe engine. Sometimes it can be more beneficial, sometimes it can lead to more confusion, but it's usually very helpful to be able to get different information. And this has taken too long while I'm displaying, so I'm going to go ahead and hide it, and let's see if this will go a little bit faster. All right, there it went. On this particular site, this also has a fairly good tutorial to walk you through how to using it. But you'll see it's a little bit more bare bones, less user-friendly than the Optimze tool, but it'll point out the exact elements that you have and kind of the source code. It doesn't have the nice functions that the Optimze does where it really points exactly on the page where it's at. There is a highlight button where if I click this, it would highlight where on the page it is so you can see it there. But as you can see, it's a little bit more developer focused. The other thing that I like about this tool is it will also give best practice advice. So not just accessibility problems, but also things you might want to do to improve the overall layout of your site. So this is the AxeDev tool. And the last tool from a browser extension and in this category of scanning tools that we recommend is using the Wave browser extension. So the Wave tool is kind of one of the gold standards of testing. When this extension is installed, there'll be a little W icon up in your browser toolbar. And this one is a little bit more user-friendly, but again, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So switching back over to my demo site, as you can see, it finds a lot of different checks and ways of displaying the information. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming when you look at all the different icons, etc., that are over there. So one of the things I usually recommend is to have people go over and uncheck each of the other sections and only look at the errors that show up, because then you can focus right in, okay, where is there a potential error? Click on it, find out about the information, click on the reference link to get instructions on how to fix it, that type of thing. One of the cool things about this tool that I haven't seen in other tools is their order tab. It lets you look at how a assistive technology is going to walk through the tool, and it does it in a rather human-friendly way. There's a couple of other tools we'll see today that look at this tab order, but this is one way to look at your website and think through, this is what an assistive technology is looking at as it scans through the site. This is the order everything goes through. Is that really the order that I'm trying to present to the public? Another feature of the Wave tool is this structure view, and this helps you look at how your website is structured and organized. Again, it's providing that different perspective, because a lot of what accessibility is your content perceivable and understandable? Here's one great problem right here that hopefully everybody noticed right off the bat. I start with an H1 and immediately jump down to a heading 6, which for accessibility purposes, these should always be organized in an outline, and I shouldn't be jumping down that far. In fact, looking at this probably shouldn't even be a header. This should be formatted differently. So that's one of the reasons we like this tool, is because it has different ways of looking at the same thing. It's not just here's the error, here's a potential solution. All right. Now, sometimes you're not going to be able to install extensions. Every agency has different security rules. One system, if you can't install that Wave extension, you can go to web.aim.org and do a single page scan using that system. And it doesn't want to open for me. There we go. And with this one, it's the same thing. In this case, what we would do is just enter in a particular web address, hit go, and it will load that same system right there in the browser. So again, no user accounts needed, no extensions needed. You get the same benefit as the browser extension, all through doing it through the website. The drawback, of course, is you do have to remember what that URL is. But it's another great way to get that second opinion. Another tool that we recommend, and this one isn't a full complete scanner like the previous tools, but the ANDI bookmark. A bookmarklet is something that you would find underneath the bookmarks in your browser, and you just add it to your browser the same way you would any other bookmark. But the ANDI tool is really cool because it gives you the perspective from how assistive technology is going to look at your site. So switching back over to my demo site again, when I click on the ANDI tool, it very quickly reports the results. I don't know if you notice how quickly that happened, but because it's examining what's already been downloaded into your browser, it already has access for everything that it needs to know to examine accessibility. So it's very quick. Some cool things about the ANDI tool is it allows you to focus in on specific modules at a single time. So if you want to only deal with color contrast issues, you can switch to the color contrast module, and it will let you know how many alerts are there, where manual tests may be needed, etc. For the focusable elements, we're able to go through, and this is one of the cool things. And as I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but as I'm moving my mouse over each of the different items, up at the top, it's doing that accessibility check for that specific item right at the same time. So when I hover over releases, it tells me what the output is for a screen reader, what the inside text is that's going to be read out loud to a screen reader. It'll tell me if there's any specific problems with that. So if I hover over my link at the top, my searchaz.gov, it gives me the output of what those assistive technologies are looking at. So this I found is kind of a fun way of looking at your website from a different perspective. You can also turn the tab order on to be able to see how the keyboard tab works on your particular site and make sure that it's tabbing through in a logical order. If somebody isn't using a mouse, and hopefully everybody by now has unplugged their mouse and tried to use their website using only their keyboard. If you haven't, take away the mouse as a tool and examine your site that way. But the tab order is a great tool for showing you visually what that tab order of your site's going to look like. And because I know I'm running out of time, I should have made this one longer. larger or longer than 30 minutes. There's a couple of other tools that you already have in your browser. Chrome Inspector, we showed it a little bit earlier. I said you could install the AxeDev tools here, but Chrome Inspector, when you right-click on a browser, or excuse me, you right-click on a page, click on Inspect, it will open up the source code here. And I know this is very developer kind of focused. Most people aren't going to really look at it, but there is a tab over to the top right here that says accessibility, and this is built into the Chrome browser. If you click on accessibility and then click on this checkbox that says enable full page accessibility tree, you will end up with that universal accessibility icon. And you can click on that and look at how your web page, from the accessibility standpoint, to all of those assistive technologies. And so this can be really useful for trying to troubleshoot certain problems. Again, it's more developer focused, so I'm not really going to dive into all of that. The other tool that's built into Chrome is called Lighthouse. This is a tool that you can use to generate page scans and reports for specific pages. So if you have an application or system that's behind a login that your vendor is asking you to do a UAT test on to check for accessibility ahead of time, I like using the Lighthouse report because, one, I can do snapshots or navigation demos, but I can also check both from a desktop or mobile view standpoint. And there's a variety of different categories. For our purposes, we're just looking at accessibility. I could click Analyze Page. It will take a bit to run because it's got to re-download everything and generate the report. But it'll give you a report at the end of this that you can then export, provide to your vendor, and say, I need all of these accessibility issues resolved or explained. I'm not going to sit here and wait while it scans through and provides advertisements for lots of stuff, because sometimes it can take a bit to go through all of those. But both of those tools, okay, we like it because we're geeks. The downside is that they are much more developer focused, but I think Lighthouse in particular can be very useful for you when you're working with a third-party vendor to, as you're doing your UAT testing, do it early. Don't wait until your product is launched. Lastly, accessibility checkers. Built into Adobe Pro, we've got a big problem with PDFs, and in the coming months, we'll do more focus on resolving document-related accessibility problems. If you have Adobe Acrobat Pro, they have a built-in accessibility checker. Again, when you're creating the content, run those accessibility checkers. That's what the tool is there for, and it'll fix a lot of issues automatically. Of course, with Adobe Acrobat Pro, you have to have a license for it. If you don't have that license and you want to check the PDFs on your website, there is a tool called Tint Gun, and I'm going to show that next. Now, one big drawback to Tint Gun is, one moment. Tint Gun is ad supported, and it is a public-facing service. So you don't want to upload any confidential data, state data, into the system. This should only be used for public-facing PDFs that are on your website already. But you can either upload a file directly, or if it's on your website already, again, that's all we're doing. We're only using this for files that are already publicly accessible on our website. I can, whoops, too many ads on this page today. I could provide the URL, it will run a report. The challenge with this, though, is that it will give you about 35 different checks, whether they're pass or fail, but it doesn't tell you how to go back and fix it. It just tells you what the category of the checks are that failed, and then you need to go back and understand those checks and validate that the PDF itself is working. So we're going to talk more about the different options that are available and hopefully some better tools in the future that we can use for PDFs, but I did want to add those. Lastly, at the end of our previous session, we had talked about some color contrast tools, and we didn't really get into this. I do want to do a quick disclaimer when we're talking about color contrasting. There are different test algorithms that are out there for checking color contrast. Now, the WCAG2 standards, that's what Optimze is using. Those are the standards that most people are looking at and testing for when you're looking at color contrast. Our office actually recommends the more comprehensive accessible perceptual contrast algorithm, or APCA test. It not only is looking at the color contrast, but it's also looking at the luminescence of the colors, and it's considering the font size, font weight, foreground and background colors, etc. So the other disclaimer on color contrasting tools is the quality of those tools vary widely. The one we most recommend is this very first link, the APCA tool. There are a couple of others that are fairly good. One of the things, and I won't show it today because we're out of time, but one of the problems with most color checkers is that they are not looking at the source code for what color is actually being used, but instead they're doing a color analysis of what's displayed. And in that case, I don't think I have one available that I can show. Oh, yes, I can. Here, if I jump over real quick to my demo session, I'm going to use the color picker tool, and up in the browser, I just clicked on my little eyedrop. I clicked color checker, but if you see, as I'm using that little color picker, especially on images, it's going to be like this. Whoops, go down there. It's very difficult to get the exact color that you want to be able to generate. The reason we recommend using the ColorZilla tool is because, particularly for all of these items, instead of using the eyedrop tool, it has a web page color analyzer tool built in. Oh, and it's not showing it. I was hoping it would show it when I displayed it. So at the top, no. Where it will actually show the HTML codes or hex codes, excuse me, of all the different colors that are used on that page. The actual colors from the code, not the kind of analyzed code. So it's just something to consider. There are a variety of different color contrast tools you can use, though. So I'd recommend kind of taking a look at those. The one we most recommend is the APCA tool. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming today, and ask that please share what works for you in the accessibility chat base. Let us know what tools you're using to help evaluate accessibility on your site. And if you come across stuff that really works, or if you have questions about using any of those tools, please post it into the chat space. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Justin, do you have a minute?
Yeah, actually, Laura, can you put the questions in the chat? That way we capture it, and then we go back and we do a validation. We want to make sure we're always giving correct answers. Thanks.
Thanks.